Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to All Praise Picks. Today we're looking at the college football playoffs. It's round one on Friday, December 20th, 2024. And in this game, we have the Indiana University Hoosiers playing against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in Notre Dame. This should be a pretty good game, especially for those that are either from Indiana or from the Midwest or just enjoy watching college football, because this is a pretty historical game. And I think it'll be a great game overall. Just to be honest, I am a Notre Dame fan, alumni of Notre Dame, and I'm rooting for them in this game. And I'm just excited to be back on campus and seeing friends and seeing Notre Dame win versus IU. But in this video, I'll give a quick recap of the game history between IU and ND, as well as my parlays. As always, I break down lines, give you my thoughts, and hopefully if you tap in, we can all win. So looking into the game history between IU and ND, this marks the first time since 1991 that the two schools have met, and the Irish won their first meeting in 1991, 49-27, and that was in their season home opener. And it was kind of known as the Irv Smith game. Irv Smith added to the Irish legacy by dragging 4 Hoosiers into the end zone during a 58-yard touchdown score, and it was a pretty big moment for ND fans and just Notre Dame at that time. And the Irish have a 23-4-1 record versus IU all time in this series, so it does favor the Irish, especially historically in this game. So before I get into my parlays, be sure to like, comment on this video, as well as share and subscribe to my channel. Really just do this for the enjoyment of sports investments, as well as hopefully making people money on a day in and day out basis. So if you appreciate the content or just find it amusing, be sure to subscribe. So this is the first parlay that I have. It's focused on Jeremiah Love, who I think can have a great game in this one. So Jeremiah Love, he's a sophomore running back for ND, and he really has had a breakout season. He has 945 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns in this season so far, and he scored in every single game this year. So that means that he's 55 yards away from going over 1,000 rushing yards on the season, and I think that Notre Dame will try to get him the ball so that he can reach that significant mark for a sophomore, especially to get over 1K yards. So I do like him to score a touchdown, as well as to get over 50 rushing yards. And I think that if Notre Dame is able to run the ball, they likely will be able to control the ball, especially in the second half. And I like their odds of scoring over 10 points in the second half. If their offense is running really well in the first half, it will probably lead to IU having to pass the ball in the second half, which will lead to shorter possessions because they are passing the ball. And it'll give ND more time to score, as well as I think that, especially if ND is able to play well at home on Friday night, they should be able to score 10 points in the second half. So the odds on this parlay, I placed it on a Bet365, is at plus 115. I put half a unit on that one for 115% return on investment. As always, just have bankroll management, understanding of your finances when deciding to place these bets, if you do decide to place it with me. So these next two parlays that I have at plus 115 and plus 130 are focused on Riley Leonard. And I think that while Jeremiah Love is having a great season as well, Riley Leonard has been playing pretty well too. He's a graduate senior quarterback for Notre Dame, coming from Duke, and his mobility has led him to have 720 rushing yards on the season and 14 scores on the ground. So I just like his rushing attempts in this one. I think especially there's snow in the forecast, and it'll be a pretty cold game, definitely below freezing. So I do think that Leonard will probably try to run the ball more than 12 times, and I think he is pretty elusive and sneaky explosive as a runner too. So I do like his chances of having over 30 and 40 rushing yards in this game. And I split half a unit between both these parlays, so that if he is able to get 40 rushing yards on 12 plus attempts, both of them win. And if he has 12 rushing attempts but only has 31 yards, then we're still able to make our money back with that plus 115 parlay. And I put essentially 60% on the plus 115 of half a unit, and the other 40% on the plus 130. As always, just have bankroll management, understanding your finances when deciding to place these bets, if you do decide to place it with me. So continuing on with Riley Leonard, I think weather permitting, especially if the weather isn't as bad as the forecasts are saying it's going to be, I do think that Leonard could be passing the ball in this one. So I took him for 1 passing touchdown, as well as to go under 245 combined passing and rushing yards. I think if he's throwing the ball down the field, he isn't as efficient as a quarterback when he's throwing the ball, which is kind of counterintuitive for a quarterback, but he just kind of plays a different style. And he does like to run the ball and can have explosive running plays. But I think that IU's defense, which is ranked, I believe, in the top 10 in the FBS this season, and while they really haven't played that much competition, being top 10 should be respected, especially since they made it to the college football playoffs. So I like Riley Leonard to go under 245 total passing and rushing yards, but I think that there's a good chance that he does pass for one touchdown as well as probably score on the ground himself. And then I also took Notre Dame for over 6 points in the first half, which would just be 2 field goals, and over 7 points in the second half, which would just be 1 touchdown. I do like Notre Dame's chances of scoring in this game more than IU's. I think that Notre Dame's defense, it is ranked higher, and they have played tougher competition, and playing at home, it does favor the defense, especially given how loud South Bend and all the ND fans will be at this game. So I do like Notre Dame's chances of scoring more than IU, especially if they only need to score 1 touchdown in each half, then both of those pieces of the parlay would hit. And at plus 225 is a pretty good payout overall. So I put a little bit less than half a unit, just about 80% of half a unit for $20, and that would return $45 in total profit. But at plus 225, if you invest when you know this parlay, it's a 225% return on investment. As usual, just have bankroll management, understanding your finances when deciding to place these bets, if you do decide to place it with me. So those first couple of bets I had were on Bet365, but this next one I have is on BetMGM, and I placed it because they gave me a bonus bet to use for this game. So I just took Notre Dame on the money line as well as Riley to score a touchdown, and for Riley to have over 45 rushing yards, and Mitchell Evans to have over 30 receiving yards. Like I mentioned before, I think that Riley Leonard could have efficiency on the ground, especially if there is a lot of snow on the field. And I do like his chances of scoring a touchdown, even if it is a QB sneak. And honestly, if you were to take him for, say, like 2 touchdowns instead, there's a good chance that he could get 2 touchdowns, especially with how often he has been scoring, especially as a runner. And he is pretty elusive, as I mentioned before. But I also took Mitchell Evans to have over 30 receiving yards in this game. So he really has come to form in the offense lately. Beginning of the season, he just wasn't healthy, and is playing much better now. In his last game versus USC, he had 5 for 59 and a long of 23. And he also has had over 25 receiving yards in his last 3 games and over 25 in 4 out of his last 5 games. So I do like his chances, especially if he's getting targeted. And I do like the tight end position more than the wide receiver position, especially if it is a snowy game, because they are more of a possession type of receiver for the quarterback. And because he's been more involved lately, he's gone over 2 receptions in every single game, but he's gone over 4 receptions in 3 out of the last 4 games. So at 30 receiving yards, I just think it's a pretty good play overall, and at plus 333, I think that the payout is pretty good, especially for a bonus bet. So if you invest 1 unit without the bonus bet, it would be a 333% return on investment. Because it is a bonus bet for me, they just reduce $25 because the bonus isn't included in that. But as always, just have bankroll management, understanding your finances when deciding to place these bets, if you decide to place it with me. So now I'm getting into the long shot parlays for this game. Just enjoy having a few long shot parlays, especially if it is the only game on for the day. So I have Jeremiah Love for over 50 rushing yards, as well as Mitchell Evans, who I just spoke about, to have 20 receiving yards. Jaden Greyhouse for 20 receiving yards, who's a receiver on ND, as well as Bo Collins, who's another receiver for ND, for 20 receiving yards. And then Justice Ellison, who's the running back for IU, to have 20 rushing yards. And then what I did here for these 2 parlays is essentially hedge my bet. So on the one on the left side at a plus 850, I have the first score of the game to be before 5 minutes into the game. So essentially from the beginning of the game into the first 5 minutes, there's a score, whether it's a field goal, touchdown, pick six, safety, anything counts as a score, as long as it's before the first 5 minutes of the game. But then I also took it to go after the first 5 minutes of the game on the parlay on the right side at higher odds overall at 1100, plus 1100. And I like these plays, especially, I'll talk about just the guys I haven't talked about yet, Greyhouse, Collins, and Ellison. I like Greyhouse and Collins because they are pretty good receivers for ND, and while Riley Leonard doesn't really pass the ball as much as a typical quarterback would, I think that with the momentum of being at home and IU's defense is vulnerable against the pass more so than the run. But I included Jeremiah Love for over 50 rushing yards because of that 1,000-yard mark that he has going for him, especially in this game. And then for Justice Ellison, I just think that IU will continually try to run the ball and control the clock instead of trying to pass the ball down the field. Notre Dame has a great secondary, in my opinion, with Xavier Watts and all the other cornerbacks and safeties that they have. So I think that passing the ball may be tough, especially in IU's game versus Ohio State. Their quarterback just did not play well at all. I think he only had 8 total completions for less than 80 yards in the game, and IU as a team had less than 85 yards in the game. So it wasn't a good game for them, and I think with the step up in competition, they may try to lean more on the run game to control the clock and prolong their possessions. So at plus 850 and plus 1100 if you invest 1 unit on these parlays. I put a little bit more than half, just total wager of, I guess, about 1.2 units on this one, but just split it in half because the odds are technically that one of these will lose because there has to be a score either before the 5-minute mark or after the 5-minute mark, unless there is no score in the game, which I doubt would happen. So at plus 850, it's a pretty good payout overall, and at plus 1100 is pretty good payout overall. 850% for the one on the left, and 1,100% on the one on the right side. As always, have bankroll management, understanding your finances when deciding to place these bets if you decide to place it with me. And this is the last parlay that I have in this video. It's a plus 8,500 parlay, and I think it's just a collection of the things that I think will happen in this game. So I did put just a little bit more than half a unit on this one, but I do think that Notre Dame will win the first half as well as win the game. I think there's a better team overall that have been more tested and have been more proven. IU had a pretty good season overall, but what they showed versus Ohio State and Michigan kind of shows their vulnerabilities, and I think Notre Dame, especially after their loss early in the season versus Northern Illinois, will try to exploit those vulnerabilities as well as cover up their own vulnerabilities, which they have been over the last 8 or so weeks of the season, where they've scored over, I believe, 40 points per game in the last 7 games. And I think that the offense will come to play, especially with the momentum of it being a college football playoff game. I also took Jeremiah Love for over 30 rushing yards, Mitchell Evans for 20 receiving yards, Riley Leonard for 30 rushing yards. Both teams to score a field goal in each half, and neither team to score 40 points. So these last two legs of the parlay are pretty much like the key legs of it. I do think that IU's offense has been pretty good this season and could find some efficiency in this game, especially if the weather isn't that bad. But all we need for them is to score a field goal in either the first or second quarter, and the same for Notre Dame. And I do favor Notre Dame's offense more in this game, but I wouldn't put it past Notre Dame to allow one field goal in each half, and they would probably prefer that over touchdowns. And I also took neither team to score 40 points. I think this will be a pretty lower scoring game. I think the over-under for this game is at about 52 at the time of recording this video, so they're projecting like both teams really to score like 20 to 26 points respectively, and I think that neither team really has to score over 40 points to win this game. It could be a complete blowout on Notre Dame's side, but for them to score 40 points on IU would be a complete annihilation and would be embarrassing for IU, and if that happens, I would happily pay for that $30 embarrassment. So at